Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast, helping you survive and thrive in youth ministry. And now, here's your host, Jody Livingston.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Another episode here of the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast. Wherever you are, wherever this finds you today, thanks for making this podcast today a part of your day. Jumping into something brand new today. Something that...
It's not brand new. Oh. It's not brand new. You say brand new. It's been around for a while because I'm back, baby.
How did you even get here?
I just decided, well, first of all, you use my Riverside account all the time.
That's very true. That's true.
But,
don't tell.
Yeah, boy, I've just jumped back in. If you're an old listener, my name's Trent. And I was on the podcast.
Yeah.
For how many episodes?
Like 50, probably 50.
Until you fired me. And
something like that.
Not true.
No, you quit.
I didn't quit. We decided that's not true either.
No, you got a new job, and
you got a new job, and
that's true. We both got new jobs.
You've been doing Longer Haul, but you've got. I'd say, look, Jody. This is the honest truth. I said, I came to you and I said, Jody, here's the deal. You've got this awesome new book out. It's going to be weird for you just to talk about your book on your own. You should let me come on and interview you about your book. Yeah,
and I agreed,
and you agreed,
and today maybe I'm second guessing that.
Now
that we're here, this
is exciting. This is like, I branched out. I as a result of I was like your Padawan in podcasting. We've got now Side Plug, the youth ministry podcast for volunteers, which
is
you
great.
Have your fingerprints on because you taught me how to do that stuff.
Well, you taught me how to write books.
There we go. We're equal, or we're even, is that what we say? We're even. So it is good to be back, man. And of course, you and I are friends.
Yeah.
And we've kept up all this time.
We
really didn't break up like the Beatles. We legitimately are still friends and have kept up this whole time.
Yep.
But we've just are doing different things and have done different projects and stuff. But I am really excited. And if you're looking on the screen, I'm really excited about this project.
Yeah.
That you finally got around to.
I talked about it forever.
You talked about it forever and dreamed about it forever,
yep.
Which is awesome, by the way, because it is born genuinely out of passion.
Yeah.
Obviously it is, it's about longevity, staying in youth ministry, staying power. If you're listening, staying power is 10 essentials for longevity in youth ministry. You can find it on Amazon and Lifeway and all that good stuff. But that said, like you legitimately, it took you a little while, but you finally got this thing cranked out. You connected with Lifeway. They bought into it. They loved it, which I understand why, because it's good. And here you are, man. You are a podcaster, but now you are officially an author. I loved your little unboxing video. It was great.
It was, it's weird, right? It's fun. It is really fun. It is wild to see it, be real, like to have it, to hold it, to see seeing other people with it is
totally
crazy, and we talked a lot in the process and self-published not, and I did not. And I'm glad, man, I learned a ton in the process of doing it, but it takes a long time. It's amazing any book makes it. I tell people that all the time.
It does take a while before you actually get to hold it in your hand.
Yeah. So it was good. It was fun.
A lot of rewrites, a lot of editing and all this stuff, which is all a good process though. It makes it better.
It makes it better. It makes it better. And Lifeway was a great partner. They were an incredible partner in it. And so it's been fun, but it's different. It's wild.
Yeah. And this as well. And for anybody listening, you might be listening right now going, I've thought about, you may be thinking I've thought about writing a book. And I promise y'all, if Jody Livingston and Trent, you know what I'm saying? Like if the two of us can put out a book and it get published, it just, but it is, I think if there is a secret in the sauce, it has to be born out of passion. It has to be born out of something that you genuinely are passionate about.
Yeah. I think a lot of people say, man, I want to write a book. And I think that's great. I think everyone should, if they have something to say, but you have to really want to write a book. It can't be like, I like the idea of it. Like you have to really love what you're writing about or you just won't do it. You just won't finish. It's a grueling process but it's good. And, learned a ton. And what's been wild is, I don't know if this happened to you, I wrote it, you submit your final manuscript and then you're just working on some edits from that point on. You kind of forget what you write, even though it's like born out of like this thing I love. And so you kind of you get it, and you go back and read it back through, and you're like, oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's funny. And then
you also have a couple moments, if you're like me, where you're like, dang, the Holy Spirit must have really been helping me in that moment, because that sounds way better than what I came up with.
There's a couple of times I'm reading it, I'm like, ouch, dang, Jody.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
It's good.
Okay.
Well, look, so here's the goal over the next few minutes. So if the folks that are listening right now, they already love you. They love what you do in terms of, helping the youth ministry kingdom, if you will, people that are involved in youth ministry. Most of the folks that are going to be regular listeners are folks that are wanting to grow in youth ministry. They love the kind of interviews you've done recently, that we did all those years together as well. And they all are born out of a passion for longevity, right? But they're also born out of, we're trying to help youth pastors be better and be healthier and extend all that. So this book came out of that. I asked for a reason if I could interview you for this, because I wanted to come alongside you, because I do think it's weird for you to get on and talk about your own book without somebody talking about it. But I also wanted to probe, get into some things that I think your listeners, almost said our listeners,
they are today. They are today.
That the listeners, things that they might want to know. Now, listen, I would just say this about the book. First of all, it's not like it's super expensive, and it's also a really good youth pastor read, meaning the chapters are, and I read chapters that are long in books as well. I'm not saying all youth pastors can't handle long books, but it's a pretty good sized book. Sit down and read a chapter in a setting easy, read several chapters, but incredibly practical. But let's jump into the thing, because I wrote down some questions, having looked through the book and read through a lot of the book, and of course, knowing you personally, and even having a pre-copy way back in the day when I was first, in a Word document form, all of that. Talk to me a little bit though, Jody, specifically. I think obviously you have the Longer Haul Youth Ministry podcast, and you've talked about all this stuff for a long time. And that even back whenever I wrote my book, it was first called Consider This, a Youth Minister Guide to Longevity. The reason you and I connected was because we both had this passion for longevity. But for you, why is there a passion for not just youth ministry? I'm involved in youth ministry.
Yeah.
But specifically a passion for the longevity part. Like, why does that really matter at the end of the day? Like, what's in it for me if I experience longevity?
That's funny. I don't know that anybody's ever asked me that, honestly, which is wild, because it's
just
pretty much all that's why you're here. I think it's twofold, right? When two things come to mind. One is, I think I've just seen, maybe it's 2.5-fold. I've seen the damage that comes often in teenagers when you're just rolling through youth pastors and youth ministers, the lack of trust that happens, and the missed opportunities that are there, right? So I see that. So for the sake of like the teens and the students, man, I want to see folks plug in and invest for a while where they are. I think the other side is on that same front, I've seen the incredible impact and influence that can be made if you stick around and stay.
Yes.
Right. And so,
yeah, totally.
I think we all would say, oh yeah, we really want to be, impactful and influential, and we want to make a difference. And I think that's why we all get into this. But the real truth, the real talk is that happens best and most when you stay. Uh-huh. And so I see that. Then the other side. So that's kind of maybe for on the local church and on the whatever. On the other side of it, I think I see youth ministers and youth pastors who stay. I watch them grow.
Yes.
Particularly that year 3 to year 5 stretch, which we've talked about a million times. I think you grow in your ability to lead, you grow spiritually, you grow in every way deeper when you stay. And if you're not staying and you're just kind of bouncing every 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, I think you shortchange yourself and your ability to really grow in to your calling and understand how God could and desires to use you.
Yeah, that's good. Talk about I know you know this because, again, we've talked about this and we're friends. There's also a benefit just from the overall personal health and family and everything as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Sarah and I have talked a lot about it lately, especially. We like right now, as we record this, I've got 2 kids serving at 2 different camps apart from me. Yeah. One on the other side of the country. My oldest just got back from spending 2 weeks in Europe doing missions. All 4 of my kids are plugged in and serve consistently.
Yeah, sure.
More than even in the case of some, even more than maybe some of our staff, like our part-time staff, they just serve. And so my kids have grown up in the church. They've watched student ministry. They've been able to be a part of things like my oldest, who just came back from the mission trip. That's not her first. I mean, she's been on a million of them, but we took her to Central America when she was 10. Yeah. The camp that my second daughter's working at, she never actually attended as a student because we moved away before then, but she remembers going there from when she was 6 months old.
Yeah, sure.
Like she knows that camp. It's the place where she grew up going to. And so I think that's just been really good to watch our kids grow in that. And I think selfishly, even the benefit of Sarah and I, as our kids moved, I think some people, when their kids are small, it's crazy. It's absolute chaos. It's a hard season to be in student ministry. You're out, you're gone. Yeah. And understandably, I think a lot of youth ministers, youth pastors in that season, they step out of student ministry. Yeah. And I'm just grateful we didn't, because my kids became the mascots. They had so many people to look up to.
Sure.
So many relationships and connections. And then as they moved into student ministry, oh man, what a cool moment, right?
Oh,
like
dude,
now they're invading
in
my
youth
world.
Ministry is just some of the best days,
gosh.
bro. Some of the best
So it's been
days.
great. And I think Sarah and I, we grew up together. We got married young, and then we grew up going and doing student ministry. Like, it's just what we've known. Our family it's not easy. I'm not by any means painting a picture that it's easy. You live in a glass house. You've got plenty of people who have opinions about what you do. But my kids are resilient and independent, and they literally, at least for now, which I know is not a guarantee forever, but in this moment, in this season, they deeply, genuinely love Jesus and the church. And I think that's large in part because they've watched the consistency of Sarah and I as we have been in this thing for this long, and they've just been able to experience so much of it.
Yeah, and I think the longevity thing for your family, and I want to be real careful because I'm sure there's somebody who's listening who hasn't been blessed in the last season of their life, maybe with longevity, and they've maybe had to move around a lot. So I don't mean this in any way to pile on guilt. That's not my intent. But I will tell you that I think a kid, a particular example comes to my mind that I'll be careful about from a confidential standpoint, but where it was like every few years the family's having to move. And as a result, the kids ended up growing up kind of despising the church a little bit. Because what is the church? Well, the church is that thing that causes me to have to move away from my friends every 3 years or every 4 years. And so there is a huge advantage, to that. So I agree with you, man, big time. And again, man, we've talked about this 1,000 times, and even on former podcasts, that we did together, we've talked about that. And I just think you're right. And it for me, man, it's born out of a mentor saying, hey, some people tell you the first couple of years are like the honeymoon. He's like, I disagree. It's after 5 years that it starts to get sweet. And I agree with that big time, and I know you believe that as well. So that's good. Now, listen, in the book, pretty early in the book, one of the things you say is you're not promising any silver bullets here. Like that's actually one of the titles for one of the little sections there. No silver bullets. Yeah. There's not really silver bullets, is there? There's not like a surefire. This is the list. If you do these things, boom, automatic.
Right. I think, and folks who listen to the podcast and read the blog who've been around and been a part of the longer haul won't be surprised that the book feels very similar in the sense that you and I have always tried to be mindful that are there things that we could say, hey, if you do this will happen? Sorta. Yeah. But usually not, because your context matters. How long you've been doing it matters. How old you are matters. Your family dynamic matters, right? So those specifics, which we often want.
In one bad church situation or one bad pastor situation or what can.
Yeah. I mean,
you
there's
can be
sometimes
doing all the things right on your end, but there are other outside
totally.
circumstances, right?
Yeah. So I think the book tries to be very principle based in the sense that if you'll keep these principles in mind, these will allow you to navigate your context. Yes. And that was the hope, is that if you're in a small church and you got 8 kids in your youth group, or you're in a church with 80, or you got 500 or whatever, if you're in the deep South, here on the West Coast, if you're, regardless of your ethnic background of the church or the size of the church or the age of the church, these are principles that I do believe can, they contextually will translate really well.
And I would say, here's the thing, and you're not saying it this way, but I would say it this way for you based on the book. These are not necessarily principles that will guarantee you longevity, but if you're missing most of these principles, you're almost guaranteed not to have longevity.
For sure. 100%.
You see what I'm saying? Like, there's definitely a part of it that makes me go, man, if you haven't figured out how to do some of these things, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be bouncing around a good bit.
And what's crazy, Chris, and you know this, like when you talk to other youth pastors and youth ministers, there's so many who don't know those things.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm writing things that I didn't know when I started.
Sure.
But you look back and you go, man, how did I not know that? Well, you just learn it as you go. So it's very much of how could I encourage the old 18-year-old me and set him up a little better, a little earlier on, so that he maybe doesn't have to learn some of these lessons the hard way.
Yeah, that's good. One of the chapters you talk about is one of the things that you talk about in one of the chapters, I should say, is tied to this idea, man, if I'm going to experience longevity, I probably need to really make sure I understand my calling.
Yeah.
That I genuinely believe that I am in fact called to do this. And it's out of that calling that I can experience some of the resilience that it's going to take to do that. Talk about that for a few minutes and why include that. How do I know that I wrote down, how do I know if I'm called, and is calling enough to keep me in, kind of just flesh that out for me. Cause I think that's a great chapter.
No, I think one of the things that I've noticed over, 26 years now is as we have further into this thing called youth ministry, it has really become more of an option for a career. The pay is still not amazing, for most, right?
Yeah,
but 25 years ago, you'd been hard pressed to be able to afford to stay in student ministry. And there wasn't to be honest, there weren't a lot of churches who even saw value in someone who was a little older still doing student ministry. Yes. So I think now those dynamics have changed. So which is great, by the way, that now you have both of those things in place. But the danger comes often is, well, now this can easily drift into more career than calling. And so I think so central to my story and I think yours and so many others is a very clear understanding of this is what God called me to do. This is what I'm on the earth to do. And so, I think if you've stepped into this as a career because you had a great time at camp, or you had a great youth pastor, or it seemed like something that it'd be fun to do. Yeah, you should stop and consider, what does that mean? What does that look like to be called into this thing? And is it enough to keep you? I wish it was. I don't think so. I know plenty of people who I would say, yeah, man, they were really called to this. And whether the church, just got really messy or they got deeply hurt or betrayed, I think they walked away from something that they were really called to do. That's heartbreaking.
It is. It is. It's hard. And you and I both know guys that have dealt with that and girls that have
And here's the thing, Chris, the guys that come to my mind, and some of them we both know, phenomenal youth pastors.
Really good. Yeah.
The best youth pastors. And so it is kind of a combination of things. Now, what's funny is,
for what's worth, I agree with you that calling in and of itself may not be enough, but a lack of calling though will pretty much guarantee.
Yeah. If you're not called to this, you won't stay through this. I mean, that's That's the bottom line. And it's going to get hard, and you're going to leave and do something else. And, which I know I lead that chapter with the quote on Spurgeon, and you don't like that quote. You don't like that quote.
This up? Are you going to talk about this on the air? Air?
Yeah. You don't like that quote.
I don't like the quote. Listen, I love you. And,
you didn't have a problem with Nacho Libre quotes.
And
you didn't have
flesh this
Bill
out,
and Ted. Spurgeon is the guy.
Spurgeon, the one really solid. The Spurgeon quote is the one. No, but listen, I just think the way let me pull the quote up here real quick. So, I think he says in here, what chapter is it, bro? Like, I know we're on the air, but I should already have it pulled up. Chapter 2. Calling number 5. No, that's expectations.
It's 2.
That's like number 2 or 3. Yeah. Number 2. If you can do anything else, do it. If you can stay out of the ministry, stay out of the ministry. And my response to that I said to you was, well, driving a Disney World monorail sounds pretty dang good. Like,
sounds awful to me.
But okay. But here's my point: living in a world now where I do have a lot of opportunity to talk to a lot of teenagers who are feeling called to ministry. At the end of the day, when we flesh out what he meant by that and what you mean by that, we're on the same page.
Of course.
The words, though, taken out of context from, how many ever years ago Spurgeon existed, like, I don't even know. When was he around?
The world was all black and white then.
I think it was. Okay, whatever. Right. So I just think it's in a world 2025 where there are so many options, it's a little bit of an oversimplification. Because then I've heard it presented sometimes by kind of holier than thou pastors that are like, listen, if you think you're called to ministry, if you can think of anything else you would rather do, you need to go do that thing, whatever. And I'm like, I just don't know if that in and of itself is going to help me discern whether or not God might be calling me, because there are other things that seem appealing. Now, where you and I came back together in the pre-show was, but what I love to do is ministry.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. I mean, what
feels like a life well lived is
100%
ministry. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing. Has God,
Yeah. I mean, you look at the quotes, there's Nacho Libre quotes, there's Bill and Ted. I quote Mike Tyson. By the way, folks are going to read that Mike Tyson quote and think I misquoted it. No. My quote is the real quote. Everyone else misquotes him. So just for the record.
There you go.
And the Spurgeon quote, and the quotes really are there to kind of grab your attention, right? I mean, I'm not really teaching you to the quote. I think back to what we just said, if you're not convinced of that calling, you're not going to stay. Right, because when it gets hard, you will leave. Hard. Right? And it will get hard. It's not like the
pace keeping you, you know what I'm saying?
No, it will get hard. And so when it gets hard, I need to reflect back on that calling and go, no, this is it. This is what God called me to do in my life. And if he called me to it then, he knew this was happening now. So he hasn't abandoned me. He didn't call me to this as a setup. Yep. So he's given me what I need. There's something in this moment that I need to be able to navigate and learn from. And so there's that. Now, what I will say is, and this is something I told you, I worked as a teen director, one of the teen directors at a YMCA when we were living in Raleigh, and loved it. It was fun. I mean, it was totally larger than I was a bivocational youth pastor at the time. What I was doing at the Y was much larger. Everything, in many ways, everything I was doing at the church, I was doing there. It was great. It was a great job. I learned a ton, but it wasn't the same. And at the end of the day, I knew God has called me to be a youth pastor. He's called me to minister to students at the local church level. And so I walked away from my full-time job with benefits to continue to be a part-time youth pastor and get another job. And that's crazy if it was like not based on calling, because on the outside, this is what I love to do. I love to hang out with teenagers. I love to make a difference in the next generation. I'm running camps. We were leading mission trips. We were doing events. We were doing, all the things and other things that I wasn't doing. Yes. So I just think you have to be really, I will say this. I think there's a tension in that has to be weighed. We have to be mindful that we're not just rubber stamping everyone who says they feel called to ministry, we really need to encourage them to stop, I think, and weigh the weight of that decision.
Well, and Jody,
and I think you would agree with that.
Oh, I agree with that. And I would take it a step further, doing what I get to do now, leading Next Gen Ministry in the state of Georgia, like it, and literally meeting with a group of students from all over the state once a month on a Sunday night. I think we need to take it a step further. And folks that are listening right now, I would encourage you to do this big time. What we do is fun looking and appealing to the average kid going through our youth group. We need to make sure that as they're weighing that calling, that they understand there's another side to that calling, that charter buses or school buses don't just show up automatically.
Yeah.
That deciding
and
where
they're
to stop, and they're expensive, and budgeting doesn't automatically happen. That you've got to manage that, and registration fees and registration costs and registration deadlines, figuring out what you're going to preach, not just this Wednesday night, but the rest of the year. All of these things, those are when you close the door, you're sitting down at your desk and all that stuff's piled up and you got to do that. Again, I think it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth, because there's a calling on my life. I think it's worth it, but I think guys that I've seen, gals that I've seen that haven't really rode that out, they got into that part and they're going, I thought this was about building a relationship with teenagers hanging out. Well, I mean, there's a part of it that, but there's so much more. And that's where that calling, that's where you are right on in this chapter, in my opinion.
And here's the thing. You and I both, we both went to school for this, right? So you come out of school with some knowledge.
I'm still going. I don't know if you know this, but I'm an email student now. So
look at you. Yeah,
pretty soon. Come on, you're coming back. Come on back.
And but there's things that you just won't know or learn until you start at serving at a local church somewhere.
Oh, heck no.
Right. And so even if you're in school and you're like, this is it, I'm going to school, I'm going to prepare, just know you're going to still get punched in the mouth a lot. And so how do you navigate that?
People can be mean, right?
They can be.
They can be. Parents can be mean. Not all parents. Some parents are amazing.
I would say most parents are amazing.
Most parents are amazing. But there's always, there's a couple out there.
You're going to have one.
Staff people. There are people.
What?
There are people. Okay, let's change. I love chapter 5 in particular because you're reminding everybody to be clear about the expectations. We've touched on this a little bit so far. Talk a little bit about why a chapter on understanding the expectations. It plays off a little bit of what we just talked about because ministry is hard. It's great. We love it.
Great. Love it.
Well,
here's the thing.
Hard. Yeah.
Of all the things I write about in the book, the one thing that the one thing that came as close as it could come to costing me my ministry and didn't is this one. I was really clear on my calling. That was never a doubt for me. I was, really certain of my salvation. I feel like just the pace of our life and being bivocational required us to understand kind of what it meant to run with healthy rhythms and navigate those kind of things. Like a lot of the practical skill development, even I was learning a little bit in that job at the Y, to be honest. But when I went from bivocation to full time, and I talk about this in that chapter, man, we almost imploded. Like my expectations of what that was going to look like, Sarah's expectations of what that was going to look like, what I thought the church was expecting, what the church was expecting from us. It was all different. And so we had to get on the same page pretty quickly there because, my marriage almost imploded in that. We just moved away from family. And I think the expectation thing, even back to what you just said, it's a silent danger. I don't know that anybody really talks about it. I've never heard anybody talk about it. I'm sure people do. But depending on how you're hired, even like if you're hired in as through a search team from a church, folks made up like a search committee, you got to recognize that committee are probably people who have students. They may be made up of some students. Yeah. They're the most passionate people about student ministry in that church, which is great, except they probably don't clearly and not maliciously, but they don't fully represent what the expectations of the rest of the church are as a whole.
Yes. And which is going to vary, by the way, depending on which person. Right?
Totally.
Yes.
So I think you just have to be really careful to ask and be clear on those expectations, because if not, if you have expectations that are unrealistic, or if they have expectations that are unrealistic, you're going to be really frustrated and disappointed.
Yeah,
and it's just going to create all kinds of bitterness and dissension. And
I've said recently, Jody, to folks as I'm mentoring youth pastors that, a lot of guys, the kind of guys that'll quote like that Spurgeon quote. I'm just kidding. They'll say things like, okay, you got to have God first.
Oh yeah.
Family second.
Yep.
Ministry third.
Yeah.
And I've said recently to guys, I think that is a massive oversimplification of your calling.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is because yes, God first, your relationship with God, Jesus, 100%. You write about that in the book, right?
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
But what I've said though is there are times though where your ministry is going to be busier and will take away from your family. But on the flip side, there are times where your ministry is not so busy that you can pay a little bit more attention to your family. And that this word balance is a little bit overrated, like what does that even mean? Because it's really not balanced per se in the sense of an even balance. But that being in ministry, when it comes to expectations, it's going to cost you something. And now you still need to be healthy. You need to not be a workaholic, and you don't need to go overboard with that and say, what's my calling, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, would you agree with that? Or is that
totally? I think so. I nuanced it a bit more in the book. In what you're talking about, I talk about healthy rhythms, right? In the sense that, and the beauty of student ministry is this is really predictable. It's summer right now. It's chaos.
Yes.
That's great. You're going to get back, you're going to get the school year launched, and then it's going to slow down. It's going to slow down for a bit. Everybody else is freaking out about Christmas Eve services, and you're not, unless you're a worship and youth guy. And then I don't know when it slows down for you.
Yep.
But
good luck.
Like these moments and rhythms. So I don't know about you, Chris. Everybody that I know in ministry who was so fervently passionate about what you're saying, of like God first, ministry, then family, or would say, man, you got to balance family and ministry. Or this is the quote I used to hear all the time. I don't hear this anymore, but really Spurgeon like quote, don't put your family on the altar of ministry. I don't know a single one of those people who are still in ministry.
Yep.
They've all walked away from ministry because they felt like ministry was costing them their family. And what I want to say to them, it's not the ministry that's costing you your family, it's you. Yeah, so you need to have really clear expectations, but you need to recognize rhythms, and balance is a myth. There is no such thing as balance in life. If you try to do, I'm going to do 50% this and 50% that, it doesn't work. Somebody's always getting shortchanged. So, there are seasons where my family really needs me, and I better recognize that, and I need to lean in and show up. Yeah. And there are seasons where my ministry needs me, and I need to lean into that.
The 2 weeks before camp and during camp, they have to realize, there's just part of, but that's where, this is a whole nother episode for another time. That's where understanding calling, that your calling to ministry may not just involve your calling to ministry, but may be tied to your spouse's calling to ministry. And while your kids are living in your house, are part of their calling as well.
To some extent, they have to be.
They have to be.
Right? Maybe not to the same level, and it's going to look different, and every family is going to feel different. But like, you can't run at ministry and a calling if your spouse is against it.
Yes.
Or doesn't,
because they will become resentful to what it costs. There's 100%. No question about it.
And I've seen that play out. Right? So
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you got to be clear on your expectations for sure on all fronts, and then recognize what it looks like to run and live with healthy rhythms. Yep. And not just year to year or during the year. That's like when your kids are small, when your kids get older, it all changes.
Good. It's good. All right. Change the subject here for a second. Let's jump over to chapter 6. That's the chapter after the one we just talked about. Chapter 6, you talk about vision, right? Yeah. And so when I saw that chapter, one of the things that came to mind that I don't know that we talk about enough in youth ministry circles, that I definitely sense is a bit of a struggle when it comes to experiencing longevity. And here's the question: how do I lead from vision if someone else is ultimately giving me my vision or dictating my vision to me. In other words, this is me recognizing that, yes, I agree with you. You need to lead from a place of vision, but how do I do that though, when my vision is kind of being determined by
somebody
the
above
personnel committee or the pastor or the parents or whatever that might be? Nuance that out a little bit, because I know you know what that means. And I know, again, we're friends, we know, but play that out for me a little bit, because I think that's a pretty big question to me when it comes to thinking through that.
Yeah, I think, I would define vision first. And so we often, I think sometimes we talk about mission and vision and people use them interchangeably. And I would differentiate them a little bit, especially for the purpose of this context. Like, we're all called to the same mission. Jesus gave us the same mission, right? We're to go and reach the world and make disciples.
It's kind of determined for us.
Yeah. So then vision is, what does it look like to carry out that mission? And
in your context.
In my context, right? Yes. What does it look like to carry out that mission in my context? And that scales. So if I'm a senior pastor, lead pastor, what does it look like for our church to carry out that mission in our context? If I am a student guy within that church, and this vision has been set for me for the church, then I need to figure out, okay, given the mission and now the vision of our church, what does it look like for student ministry to accomplish that? And what does that look like? And let's be honest, some churches are not going to have a really clearly articulated vision. Correct. That doesn't mean they don't have one. They have one because it drives every decision they make. So you might have to be a little more of an investigator to kind of figure out what that is. But the mistake you can't make is to run perpendicular. Like, well, this is what I think our church should do. And so I'm going to do that in our student ministry, and I'm going to show them. That does not work.
If your pastor is articulating a vision of discipleship, I mean, we're going all in on small groups. This is how we're going to change our church. And you are passionate about evangelism at all costs. Yeah. Big events,
That's not good.
That's not going to be good.
That's not good.
This is where the vision part matters big time, right? That's what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. You need to understand, and it in some ways, and it's why we said 10 essentials, right? All these things are essential, and they all build on each other. If you didn't understand that the expectation coming in is that you are supposed to be primarily focused on discipleship. Yeah, totally. You missed that. That's going to cause tension. And then you get there and then you run with a vision that's not consistent with that. You're going to, because what's going to happen is you're going to get volunteers who are bought into that idea of, like, let's use your example of evangelism and events. You're going to have a ton of those. So now all these volunteers think that, students are thinking that. I would imagine that's going to affect even what your programming looks like as you have programming. It's going to affect how you teach, how you preach. If you're writing small group questions or curriculum, it's going to decide on themes that you choose for events. It's going to affect everything. And it might work. Okay? It might work. However, when those kids leave your student ministry, they're walking into a larger church, context of church, that they don't recognize, that you've not prepared them for. And without knowing it, you have set them up to leave the church. Even though what you were running at may have been good things, it wasn't consistently clear with and underneath the umbrella of the larger vision of the church. And you're going to have volunteers who are probably going to start becoming bitter at the rest of the church because they think now that everybody should be doing what you're doing. It's just a recipe for disaster. And so you got to be really clear on that.
It's interesting as I'm sitting here listening and thinking about that. We talk about, do we know of any guys, or gals that, that do certain things that last longevity. And I was sitting here thinking, like, the guys that I've known that this seems to be more of a guy thing, by the way, like literal guy thing, not guys in a general term. Like, not all males are super unorganized by any means, and not all females are perfectly organized. There are outliers, but generally speaking, this seems to be a struggle for guys. I don't know. I definitely have known youth ministers who tend to not have a clear vision per se, but just kind of, responding making it up as they go, if you will, or responding to whatever happens to be, responding to the next crisis, or going from event to event to event to event, next year, event, next year, event, right?
Yeah.
I don't know many, the guys that I've met that I admire that have experienced like true longevity, we're talking like 10 plus year type folks, right?
Yeah.
Or even folks that have gotten out of youth ministry quick, or versus those that stay. It's the one that can clearly articulate, hey, here's the long-term vision. Here's the long-term plan that we've got for what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's out of that you can keep moving versus you just can't keep that pace of like reacting, just being reactionary over and over and over again, man. Like
exhausting.
It's exhausting. It is.
Well, and what vision will do as well is it will help you evaluate your wins. Because if you're running from event to event to event, let's take that. You're always just, what are you measuring? How this event did versus the last event.
Yes.
Or maybe you have an idea of what you want it to be one day, but you don't really have a plan to get there. So you're just constantly frustrated that you're not there yet. And vision will kind of lay a roadmap for you a bit and say, look, man, in 5 years, here's where I want us to be. Okay, if that's where we're going to be in 5, here's this is where I expect us to be in 3. This is reasonable to be here in 2. For the first year, here's what we're going to do. So when I'm sitting here at year 2 and I'm frustrated because I'm not yet where I thought we'd be at 5, I can remind myself, no, we're not supposed to be yet.
Yes.
We're working toward that, right? And that's where longevity becomes your friend because, I'm saying 5, but I'd go all the way out further than that. Where would we be?
There's some things you can't change in 3 to 5 years. Some things take a whole lot longer. Yeah.
Right. So having a clear direction and vision of where things are headed, it's going to keep you in it because it's going to keep you encouraged, or at least it'll keep you from becoming as discouraged as you could be. And I think we miss that a lot in student ministry, especially. And the nature of student ministry being so transitional because everybody's there. I mean, they're always coming in and out of the group. If you're just going event to event to event, you're just, it's not fair because you can't compare the event last year with a different group of kids to the event this year with a new group of kids. It's just, you're going to be so frustrated and discouraged.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, to be fair, part of the challenge, one, you may have somebody that's dictating that for you. There may be a senior pastor.
Yep.
And you've got to learn how to submit to that and function in that and see if your vision can be born out of that. I think that's crucial. But then you also may be in a situation where there really isn't much vision.
Yep.
That the vision is, hey, as long as the teenagers are happy and the parents are happy, we're good to go.
Yeah.
And out of that, you may have to create your own vision out of that going, no, here's kind of a plan, that I have in place. And I think those things will lead to longevity. If not, I think you can only do that for so long. I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, and remember, the goal is to graduate them out of your ministry into the larger church.
Sure.
That's the goal. Reach them, disciple them, grow them, launch them. So you just have to make sure that whatever you're doing is preparing them for that. And that's going to look different in every context. How you do ministry, I don't know if I say this in the book, but I feel like I say it all the time when I'm talking to student pastors and stuff, is how you do ministry is going to change. It'll change a billion gajillion times. As long as you're clear on your why, though, you'll be able to navigate the how. And the why can't just be, well, we want a lot of kids, or we want, that's a dumb thing. I mean, that's not sustainable. That is not sustainable. It is, and it will destroy you because you're going to find yourself so discouraged that, man, nobody came this week. I mean, man, the number of events that I can think back through where we, especially early on, where we put so much time and energy into something and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
Or like 2 kids show up and you're like, okay, well, looks like we're going to Taco Bell. Yep. And it was amazing. But if I sat there and was evaluating that on the fact that no one came and I missed the 2 kids in front of me, that's a real big lack of vision.
Yeah, totally. It's good, man. It's good. Well, let's start to land the plane a little bit here. Let's jump all the way to chapter 10. This is where the Mike Tyson quotes comes in that you mentioned earlier. So if you've listened up to this point, this is your reward, but everybody has a plan until they get hit for the first time. I love that. What do you think? You said that's misquoted. What is the other way?
Everybody always says, they quote it and say, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Oh,
or punched in the face for the
that
first time.
still makes sense.
Yeah, it's just wrong.
Yeah. Everybody has a plan until they get hit for the first time. This is chapter 10, though. This is, as you start to wrap up the thing in the book, essential number 10, you're saying be committed to stay. I thought that was interesting, Jody, because I reflected back on the fact that some of my mentors, so in my book on longevity, I dedicated to all my mentors. One of the earliest mentors in that, said to me, the thing about the 2 years, and he said, it's at 5 years that things start to get sweet, in that there was an implication of, so you got to be committed to lasting 5 years.
Yeah.
Like that's a minimum for you. Like you got to be committed to longevity. I love this chapter because I think part of it is it's giving people permission to say, you know what? I'm actually setting a goal to go somewhere. First of all, I believe that Jody's right, that there's value in longevity, and I'm going to chase after it. I'm going to commit to it, and I'm going to strive for it.
Yeah. I think I just had conversations with youth ministers over the years, and it's like you have this conversation, they've been there a year, and you can tell they kind of came in already with their eye on the back door. Like, I don't know, but if it gets bad, they've got a backup plan, or they're just already thinking about what an exit strategy could be. Or, and this isn't as common, but like, I really want to be a senior pastor one day. And so I'm going to step into youth ministry and kind of get my feet wet and then move in. And again, you and I both we've said this. I think youth pastors make great senior pastors.
Very much so.
I just don't think every youth pastor needs to be one. Yeah, not us. Yeah, apparently not us.
I don't mean us, but other people.
Yeah, other people.
Other people.
It seems so simple to say, and yeah, it's the thing I find that is often missing is there's just not from the outset, there's not a commitment that I'm going to stay here.
Yes.
And I don't mean like saying it. I mean like meaning it.
Yeah, totally.
And, when we were serving kind of near each other there in Georgia, when I went on staff at that church, I was the 5th youth pastor that senior class had.
Oh, that's rough.
That's 5 and 7 years, Now, 2 of those were interim. It doesn't, and literally had a senior say to me, you're going to leave like everybody else. I don't have time for you.
Totally.
And so that's where it's like, man, I don't think So I've always just kind of, and maybe it's just my personality too. I've always just kind of said, wherever we go, we're not going to leave. Yes. If God moves us, he moves us.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And
love it.
I would love, I'm telling you, like, you think of a guy like Jeff Glenn. We both know Jeff Glenn.
Shout out Jeff Glenn. What up?
Yeah. Jeff's been on the show, and Jeff was at the same place for like 26 years, something like that.
Totally.
That's as long as I've been in ministry. He was at one church as our youth guy. And man, you think of the influence and the impact that he had over that time. And I would have given anything for that to have been my story. And I have expected that to be my story everywhere I've gone.
Yes.
And, we talk a little bit about, we've talked about this before in the podcast, talked about in the book, you shouldn't run from something. You should always go to something. And God needs to be the one that's orchestrating that. In fact, in the back of the book, so the conclusion is the chapter that no one will read, but everyone should, right? That's kind of the conclusion there. And it's a little more of a proverbial kind of wisdom there. And then in the appendix, I give you 7 reasons you should leave.
Yeah, totally.
Which feels...
I think we did an episode on that one time.
We did, yeah. So I stole it from that episode. So...
I noticed that you didn't quote me in my book one time in the entire book, by the way. Thanks for that.
You named your book after this podcast and you don't mention me.
With permission, let's be clear. Let's be clear. You regretted that moment, I bet. But anyway.
There are moments and times to leave, right? Like we're not saying that. I don't think we would ever say you should never leave.
We're not coming down on guys that have experienced.
No, because sometimes it's out of your control.
That roller coaster. Yes.
Totally out of your control. But the reality is you shouldn't go in already thinking you're going to leave.
Yeah, 100%.
And you need to go in and be committed to stay. And when it gets hard, you need to be committed to stay. And you need to try to figure it out and learn and grow from it and see what God does in that. And that might
resonates with the Wendy and I, bro. Like you, and our story, man. We graduated college, same college, little Bible college, Mobile, Alabama. Went out to Texas I purposefully, because of a mentor talking to me about longevity, had decided I was not going to take a church while I was in seminary.
Mm-hmm.
Because the plans were, you go do 3 years of seminary.
Yeah.
Turned into 9.
I was going to say, how many years was that?
Yeah. But here's what happened though. I wasn't going to take a church because I didn't want to be that youth pastor that rolled into town and was your youth pastor part-time until I got my seminary degree. And then I took a real church. Right. So, because I didn't want to experience that, because we knew if we were going to go somewhere, we were committed to seeing like a group. At the time, it was like 7th through 12th grade. That was kind of the norm, where 6th grade to 12th seems like more common now.
Yeah.
I want to see a group of 7th graders graduate. So we didn't even talk to churches. But sure enough, man, God orchestrated this thing that we couldn't help but talk to this church there in Texas. Jody, I kid you not, the decision when we made it was, yes, a decision that we felt God was calling us to North Lake. But we knew, I'm talking about out loud, we said this. This means we're going to be in Texas for at least 7 to 8 more years. That was like a minimum for us, minimum starting point. That's why that chapter resonated with me so much. Because it's a little bit of this, like, being committed. We're going here. And the way this matters, friends, if we can help you flesh this out a little bit, especially our younger listeners that are kind of starting out in this ministry, as you are interviewing for churches, one of the things I think you need to envision is this the kind of place where I can go and stay 7, 8 years? Right? 7 years minimum will be sort of my, 7 or 8 would be a minimum, which also means you have to think, okay, we're just a young couple without kids right now, but this means our kids are going to be born here.
Yeah.
Where do grandparents live? Is that going to cause us to want to leave? There's so many layers to that, but it's all about, but again, why I love that chapter so much is that it's the committed. It's a part of, we're not saying name it and claim it by any means, if you envision it, there's a little part of there, right? There's a little bit of it, like, you call it and you want it, you chase after.
Trust. I think there's a place to tell the Lord what you want and desire. And look, there's no perfect church. If you're going down the list of like, is this the church? I mean, you're not going to find one. And so it kind of just goes back even to the calling. Like I'm called to ministry and I'm called to this place. If I'm called to this place, then I need to be committed to stay here.
Yes.
And I will stay until God calls me somewhere else, or, I need to leave because of other reasons that I mentioned in the back of the book. And so, I think, I just think in a world where outside of the church, people are changing careers every 5 years, that has a tendency to seep in. And for a lot of things, to be honest, like Chris, and this is a lot of things you talk about in your book, which I know is not what we're here. I'm talking about my book today, but
that's right. We're talking about your book.
But like one of the things I appreciated, and I did like that. I remember we had conversations about it as you were writing it, even, and it's been true for us. Is there are things like people around you are going to make more money than you.
Yes,
you're going to have more education and make less money. They're going to take vacations you can't afford. Those are moments where your kids and your family can become bitter because you start looking around. You come back from camp and the same guy asks you how your vacation was. Like, come on, man, what the heck?
Yeah.
But again, back to what I said earlier, my kids have experienced things that their friends have never experienced. Yep. And it didn't cost me. It didn't cost me
so many blessings.
Like there have been people who have let us use their condo at the beach or a cabin in the mountains. Not a lot, but sometimes, right?
Yep.
That there have been times where we've gotten invited into things. It's just, everything is not what you see on the surface. So you really do need to pray through that. I love what you're saying. You need to look and see, is this where God is calling me to be for the next season, 7, 8 years at least? We've always said our yes is on the table and he's going to put it on the map, and wherever he takes us, we're staying. We're not going to leave. Now, he may do something, but that's never been our intent. We'll do this for a few years and then we'll move on and we'll get a better gig or a bigger gig. No, that's never been it. The sweetest ministry, I tell people all the time, the sweetest season of my ministry was the first 11 years of bivocational ministry.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so good. Now I'm grateful. Listen, I'm grateful to be full-time in this back half of ministry. And God's certainly done things there that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So I'm not complaining, but it was hard. That bivocational season was hard. I was working part-time, 3 or 4 jobs. We had 4 young kids. Yeah. Sarah was staying at home. We lived in a tiny little apartment, a tiny little house. But man, you know what?
It's good, man.
It was easier to see God's blessing in that season.
Yeah. Well, that's where that calling comes out, right?
I mean, I just think of like God, even now, like getting emotional, think about it. Like there were small things that I probably wouldn't even notice today that were such huge blessings from the Lord, where he stepped in moments that we couldn't have done it without him. You know what I mean? And that we just knew all of those little moments in difficulty were reassurances of his calling in our life to that ministry and to that place. And if we had not been committed to stay, because everybody and their brother's telling us to leave. Yeah, you could go find a full-time job. You could go here. You could go there. Oh, this is really tough. No. We just knew. No, we didn't. Listen, we didn't come to leave. We came here to stay, and we will until God's done with us. So it was great.
You've heard me talk about it before. I love the movie The Rookie, the baseball movie Rookie.
Yeah.
Where this guy, where he's like that old guy that becomes a pitcher like late in life.
Yeah.
And he's in AAA ball and he's struggling. And he goes and he watches some little leaguers playing baseball. And he remembers his love. And he walks into the locker room and he says to one of the other players, "Hey, you know what we get to do today? We get to play baseball."
Yeah.
And I think back to that a lot, because I think at the end of the day, man, we get to do youth ministry, man. We get to see the lives of I am a teenager. So I'm a guy whose life was changed as a teenager.
Yep.
A youth pastor reached out to me. We get to be a part of that. And at the end of the day, all the ups and downs, we get to be a part of it. It's great.
Yeah.
What a calling, man. It's good.
Jody,
That's also kudos, my brother.
Is that also because you want to play for the Savannah Bananas?
Yeah. I've seen them twice, bro. They're pretty close. So they're great. I saw my Brave Stadium. It was awesome.
That's great.
Hey man, kudos. Listen,
Thanks.
Friends, if you're looking at the screen right now, Jody Livingston, Stay in Power. He didn't ask me to do this. He's probably feeling a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know about the elephant on the front. What's that about? I'm just kidding. I like the elephant. I think it's cool because, he's big and staying. Okay. But man, listen, you did a great job. Kudos, my friend. Proud of you. Friends, you can get your copy on Amazon or Lifeway, and I highly recommend it. I recommend, practically speaking, that you consider grabbing it and grabbing a couple of friends to go with, or check this idea out, Jody. About to drop this on you. You didn't even know this was coming. I like the idea of getting a copy and saying, "Hey, Pastor, I'm going to go through this book about longevity. I'd love to spend some time with you. Could we meet and go through these chapters, and you tell me your thoughts about each chapter as well? Like go through it with your pastor." How healthy would that be? That'd be legit.
That's great.
Right? That'd be great.
Unless he disagrees, and then I don't know.
Yeah. Then Jody at lifeway.com.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
Jody,
thanks for doing
my friend.
this. This was fun.
I handed it back because I don't know how you wrap these things up these days because, again, you kicked me out of the podcast. But, it's been great to be back on, and I'm happy to come back on anytime. Man, how do you wrap things up normally? I want to hear
let me do this while people are listening. If they want to find more from Chris, the magician and youth expert, where would they find that?
I met Chris Trent, on the old Instagram, Chris Trent, and my link tree's there. It's got all the stuff. It's got the book, but don't buy my book. Buy Jody's book. My book's already sold
12
few hundred copies or something crazy. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I meant.
So he needs to get at least 400 copies sold. And so, by the way, let's just go ahead and be brutally honest. I don't know that your publisher's comfortable with this or my publisher's comfortable with this. Can we just say out loud, there's a little bit of money in publishing, but there's not a lot. I mean, It's not like we're making a killing on these things, bro. It's just, and now we're grateful and it opens up lots of great doors, but you don't do it for the money unless you're like Rick Warren or somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Selling millions of copies, we ain't selling that kind of stuff. But listen, it's great, man. And I'd love for you to reach out. And on a side note, if I could ever help you do anything, man, if you ever need a friend, I'd be happy to connect with you. So just at Christian on Instagram. My link tree's there. Youthministry.info is my link tree. Youthministry.info. So yeah,
wow,
good hang out.
You. Yeah, and your podcast.
Youthministry.info's got a link to it, but it's intentionally designed for your volunteers. So youth pastors that are listening, we've got 60 episodes now that are what I would consider a treasure trove of topics that your volunteers you could send, and they're all short. They're all like 15, 20 minutes, maybe 25, some of them, and they're topics like how to get that kid in your group to be quiet that talks too much.
Yeah.
Or how to take prayer requests without it taking too long. It's all these really practical. And I'm not thinking about volunteer youth pastors, by the way. I'm talking about the volunteers in your youth ministry that are driving your bus or sending out the pizza or leading a Sunday school class. That's the kind of people I'm talking about. Yeah.
Great resources to your volunteers through.
Yeah, it's fun one, man. We have a good time on there. Have a great team. And Jennifer Fletcher does it with me. So we have a female perspective. She's phenomenal. So I'd love to have you. Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for doing this, man. We'll catch up, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will, my brother.
All right. See you, dude. Hey, well, thanks again to Chris for being willing to jump on here to the show today. It's always, he's right. It's a bit uncomfortable to talk about on my own. So I'm thankful for him being willing to jump on and kind of help prod in that. It's been a long project for sure. Genuinely, though, I am proud of the book, proud of how it came out. Feel like it is helpful for youth ministers, youth pastors, whether you're just starting or you've been doing this thing for a really long time. I really believe it'll help you. You'll find it to be helpful. The principles there found in it. So head over to longerhaul.com/stayingpower and you can grab a copy today. It's also on Amazon, lifeway.com, but that longerhaul.com/stayingpower kind of give you all the places you can go and purchase the book. So, hey, thanks for hanging in here today. A little bit of a different episode. I know we'll be back with another episode coming your way. Maybe less talk about me, but again, thanks again for tuning in today. Appreciate that. Appreciate Chris. Have a great week, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Longer Haul Youth Ministry Podcast. Before you go, hit that subscribe button to keep these conversations coming. For notes, resources, and to join our community, swing by thelongerhaul.com. Stay encouraged. Keep making a difference. And remember, we're in this for the longer haul. Catch you on the next episode.